Many people fantasize about being wealthy, about having all of the luxuries and money you could ever hope for. But, as a great poet once said, mo money, mo problems. So what happens when a rich and powerful family are played against each other? And what happens when these things become life or death?
What you are about to hear is believed to be real, based on witness accounts, testimonies, and public record. This is terrifying and true.
Hey, my spookies. Tonight's story is all about trusting the wrong people. It's a story that's easy to provoke cynical opinions and thoughts. But I just want to say, personally, and this may not be spooky, but it's the truth, most people are generally good. But that doesn't mean we have to lower our guard. That doesn't mean we should be skeptical. There's a saying I've always liked, which is, you should be open-minded, but not so open-minded that your brain falls out. Well, this story is all about trusting the wrong person and having so much to lose that they can't help but milk you for every single red cent. This is the story of Thierry Tilly, the conspiracy con man, and we're telling it tonight, right after these quick words. Chances are somebody has at one point or another conned you out of something. Whether it be related to money, food, fame, a romantic partner, or anything else you hold in any kind of positive regard, think back to when you were a child and a classmate or neighbor told you that they would give you something they claimed was more interesting or special for, say, a rare trading card or video game or even a toy that you possessed. You took the trade only to later find out that it was in fact all a ruse for the said friend to cheat you out of something you considered valuable. That, my friends, is a con. Cons are something done every day, all around the globe. Quite a few people will cite things such as holidays as cons, and there are those who will state that anything or everything a particular government does is a con. People who specialize in conning others are known as con artists, or simply as a con man, the term coming from the shortening of confidence to con, as it is usually those who exude confidence that make the best con artists. Our terrifying tale today is about a con man, one of the most notable and possibly the best. We have to go to France and England today just for this story, but it is a trip well worth taking for an intriguing and hypnotically diabolical scheme such as this, one that includes embezzlement and even torture. This is the story of Thierry Tilly and how he conned the Vedrines family. The story begins in the year 2000 and with the French family Vedrines. The Vedrines family is an aristocratic family that was established in agencies. Guillaumet de Vedrines, who was born in 1912, had 3 children, Philippe, Ghislaine, and Charles Henry de Vedrines. Philippe worked for an oil company. At the time of the event, he was in his 60s and lived with his wife, Brigitte Leroy Martin. Ghislaine was running a secretarial school in Paris. She was married to an economic journalist with 2 children. Charles Henry was an obstetrician in Bordeaux and married to Christine, a documentarian by profession. They lived in their ancestral chateau, Montflanking. As for the master con man named Thierry Tilly, he was born in Boisé-Columbus, which is northwest of Paris. By all accounts, he led a normal life and even married a model. However, he was never able to live his dream of becoming a lawyer, as he dropped out shortly after enrolling. It was Ghislaine who first met with Tilly. She gave him a job as a deputy director. Eventually, he became her right hand, and she introduced him to the rest of the family. She shared every detail about them and their property with Tilly. After winning the hearts of other family members, he offered to become their financial advisor. Tilly presented himself as a descendant of the Austro-Hungarian Habsburg nobility and claimed that his communist grandmother had salons with former socialist president François Mitterrand. And they all, of course, believed him. But once he earned their trust and became their right hand, Tilly set to work with his plan for taking advantage of his new, so-called friends. Tilly claimed that the Vedrines were soon to become the victims of conspiracies. In September of 2001, he persuaded 11 members of the group to seek refuge in their family castle in Montflanquin for their safety. Jean Marquin, Ghislaine's husband, was left out by their relatives, whom Tilly revealed to be a partner of their enemies. The 11 family members included Guillaume, the matriarch, who was 88 years old at the time, her 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter, 2 daughters-in-law, and 5 grandchildren. As per Tilly's script, Ghislaine and her family's lives might be in danger. He convinced them that the Freemasons were focused on getting their land. Tilly appeared to have some knowledge of the dark side, and when they asked him about the field he had worked in before, he answered with one palm raised, "Do not inquire. I cannot discuss." The neighbors of the Vedrines family said they were living a pretty normal life before they met with Tilly. They were a respected family and greatly liked as well. It was in the middle of 2001, however, when the 11 members cut their ties with all of their friends and other family. The Vedrines began shunning everyone in their lives, even their spouses and children. On January 4th, 2002, a neighbor came to see what was wrong. They didn't open the door. She looked through the window and saw them all, sitting, motionless in the dark. No one was allowed to visit their house. If someone tried to enter through the gate, they started shouting and even attacked some visitors. Since all the Vedrines family quit their jobs, they stopped paying taxes. In 2003, the tax authorities seized their property's furniture. Tilly managed to convince the family to sign over all of their property to him. But after 2001, Tilly had been missing in action. He was giving them orders from a distance, and they all became puppets in his hands. Ghislaine's husband, Jean Marchand, was the only one in the family who was able to get out of the trap. Jean had found an email from Tilly to Ghislaine that included the following instructions. Throw the glove and flowers his way to inform him that these are indications that his network is evil, and give him 30 minutes to pack. He tried to alert the authorities, but the Vedrines kicked him out of the castle for his attempts at freeing them. When Tilly ran into significant legal problems in France, he began shifting his base to England. Tilly then had each member of the family move to his home in Oxford, one by one, starting in 2006. Philippe de Vedrines and his wife Brigitte Leroux Martin left the family in February 2008. Tilly forced the other 9 Vedrines to move to Oxford. Tilly's family and the Vedrines were living together there. The aristocrats were now penniless. Christine worked as a caterer salesperson, and Charles Henry, the former obstetrician, had to work as a gardener, and their salaries went directly into Tilly's account. Yet of all that was done to the Vedrines, the most serious was the physical abuse of Christine, the wife of Charles Henry. Tilly convinced the Vedrines that Christine was hiding treasure from them. One of the family members tied her to a stool for 2 weeks and prevented her from sleeping. With the help of her employer, Robert Poguet, Christine was able to leave Oxford. He listened to her entire story of torture and the endless list of family possessions that had been lost. In March of 2009, she arrived in Bordeaux and met with lawyer Daniel Picotin, where she told her story. Thierry Tilly's good fortune was about to end. He became a target after Christine's testimony, and the French government brought charges against him in response to claims of torture and abuse. When Tilly traveled to Zurich on October 21, 2009, he was arrested, and the events that followed quickly brought the Vedrines family back together. Tilly was prosecuted by the French justice system in Bordeaux for fraud, abuse, kidnapping, and torture. Explaining the verdict, the court said Tilly had created a state of submission amongst his victims, encouraging, quote, group paranoia and mental destabilization. In 2012, he received an 8-year prison term and was ordered to compensate his victims. Jacques Gonzalez, his accomplice, was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Tilly's sentence was extended to 10 years following an appeal in 2013. Charles-Henri de Vedrines would later say that, quote, he stole 10 years of our lives, but he did more than that. He destroyed everything along the way. And there you have it. A man with a hypnotically tight grip on a family that slowly turned against their friends, associates, and eventually each other, but looked to this man for trust only for it to later be revealed that it was he who had conspired against them. Truly a diabolical act, if there ever was one, made even more so by the fact that the con artist had began formulating how to do it all since watching a made-for-television movie that featured a similar plot. While they had to live in social housing for some time, Charles and Christine were able to get their lives back on track, as were the other members of the Vedrines family. They were even able to reconnect with one another and put their distrust of one another into the past. Tilly, however, will always be a dark specter in their lives. His 10 years are up, and unless he's learned better, he might just be on the prowl, if not already playing another family like a fiddle. So when in doubt, trust those you know well, especially when it comes to your finances or any other prized possessions. After all, you wouldn't want to be a victim of a guru spending all of their time lying and conning you out of everything, would you? This story, it's a rough one. The family were rich, so many would assume that they would be prepared for something like this. But really, when it comes down to it, whether rich or poor, we're all simply human. Humans are looking for answers every single day. And when someone comes along and says, I have all the answers and I'll share them with you and it'll be for a small fee, if you have money laying around, why wouldn't you trust them? It's a sad story. A story about the fact that no one is untouchable from lies and deception, but really from being human. And I want to recommend another podcast I think you might enjoy. It's called The World's Greatest Con. It's hosted by Brian Brushwood, a pal of mine. It's really good, and it breaks down several fascinating con jobs throughout history. So if you get a chance, check it out wherever you get podcasts. An unfortunate truth in this world is that we have to always be vigilant, but don't let your heart get so hardened that you don't enjoy life with other people. It's a challenging balance, and I'm learning as I go, just like you. Terrifying and True is narrated by Enrique Couto. This episode is written by Morgan Moore. It's executive produced by Rob Fields, produced by Daniel Wilder, with original theme music by Ray Mattis. If you have a story you'd like us to cover on the program, send us an email at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. And if you want to support us in a very direct way, go to weeklyspooky.com and click on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can support us and allow us to keep the spooky rolling and rolling and rolling. And I want to say a big thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, Bobbletopia.com, Megan Hua, Julia Kirsch, Brent McCullough, Steve King, Karen Weemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time right here on Weekly Spooky and Terrifying and True.